What's up, everyone? Gamal Kadner here again, and today is another part in the series on how to make millions in ecom this year for 2024. Today's focus is specifically on finance, cash flow, access to capital, funding, growth, all of that. For those of you who are new to the channel, my family and I scaled our brand up to 7 figures and then got acquired in only 4 years. And since then, we've documented our process for building brands, and we started coaching other 6 and 7 figure founders, right? So we created a community of people who were at the same level because, when we were building our brand, there was a lot of resources to getting started. Not a lot of resources when you actually start hitting 6 and 7 figures. And two of the biggest problems is continuing to scale consistently, and then cash flow finances and funded inventory at this level, right? To get started, you can put that on a credit card. Eventually, your purchase orders are 100,000, 150,000, and it's very common for our clients to have 6 figures in debt, largely from just inventory. And so today's video is about what I would do if I was starting over from scratch and had to build a $100,000 per month business or a multi-million-dollar business in 2024, right? Without the pandemic money, without the government checks in 2024, here's what I would do. And so we're going to jump right into this presentation, right? I've prepared some slides because money could be a little bit confusing and not everyone is a finance whiz. And so this is going to be like a ecom finance MBA crash course in like 20 minutes, right? So let's jump into it. Pretty much every founder that I meet is struggling with cash flow. They're like, man, I need money. I always need money. I always need money. I always need money. And the thing is, cash flow, what most people think they need is like, I just need a loan, or I just need a new credit card, or I just need, something else. They're taking on the Shopify loans, they're taking on the PayPal loans. And the thing is, I heard this amazing analogy from a pastor. It explains cash flow perfectly. The story goes like this. There was a guy who had a crack in his house and he called a cheap painter to come and patch it up and fix it. A month later, the patch kept coming back, or the patch came back, called the same guy. He came back and fixed it over and over again until he got tired of it. And he's like, man, I got to find a professional. So he bit the bullet, called an expensive painter in, brought him in. He's like, man, I've had 3 guys come out here to try to fix this thing. Time to pay the big guys. And so can you please fix it? The expensive painter, the professional, went around for 5 minutes, came back and said, sir, I can't help you. You don't have a crack problem. And he's like, I'm literally looking at the crack on the wall. He's like, no. You actually have a foundation problem. The reason you keep seeing this crack is because every time you patch it up, something happens where your foundation shakes, and that movement creates the crack again. So every single time that moves, you're going to have to come back and patch this. So until you fix the foundation, you're going to always have this problem. And that's a perfect way to segment into what's happening with cash flow. If you feel like you are always in the need for more money every 6 months, or if you need money and then your business triples, if the problem isn't solved that you're going to need more money, the problem that you're seeing is a symptom of the problem, not the foundation of the problem. And so today we're going to not only talk about the symptom, we're going to talk about what is the foundations or the fundamental things that you should be fixing to fix, in that analogy, the foundations of your home, and not just keep continuing to patch or paint over the crack in your wall, right? So cash flow is really not a new loan or a credit card, but it's gross margins, how you pay for your inventory, how long it takes the inventory to come after you order it, your sales velocity, your payment terms at your manufacturers, right? And if you don't know any of these words, it would be well worth your time to go back and figure out what this stuff is, because that's how you fix the foundation of your business's cash flow problem, right? That's all the stuff that's beneath the tip of the iceberg. So as I mentioned, we have a program where we pretty much have fundamentals, strategy, tactics, all the strategies are played out to fix finances. There's like 15 of them that we have. When our clients come to us and they're struggling, there's 15 exercises and strategies we take them through to fix it. We obviously don't have time to go through all of that now. That can take weeks and months. But the basics I want to figure out is I want to help you understand negative cash flow and COGS to inventory in your accounting. That's the 2 most common problems I see people having. And so I'm going to talk to you about those, right? So the first one is figuring out what quarterly accounting is. And so if I'm building a business this year, ecom brand, I want to know that my cost of goods sold or my products take up about 25% of my revenue. My operational expenses is about 25, my marketing is about 25, and my profit 25%, right? Another way to look at this is, let's say I want to make 100 grand per month. Each of these things I should be spending on average about 25,000. How people get into trouble is if your marketing spills over and maybe you're spending 30, 35%, it eats into your profit. So if one of these is over 25, it eats away at your profit. When we sold our business, we were doing about 46, almost 50% profit in the business. But that's because we had a lot of, we kind of nerded out and obsessed with reducing all the expenses in COGS, operation, and marketing. That was really efficient. And so because we cut these other categories in half, we were able to grow our profit line to almost 50%. So the main thing understanding the problem with ecom is that you have a negative cash flow cycle. What I mean by that is you pay for product up front and generate revenue from it later, right? And so if you're at 30, 40,000, 50,000 per month, let's say you're at 50,000 per month and you want to double, essentially what you have to do is the profits you have today, you have to take that profit and buy inventory to predict your future growth. So in 3 months, you want to be at 100 grand. You got to buy double the amount of inventory that you're needing now so that in the future, you can have the amount of inventory you need to hit 100 grand, right? What I mean by that is in this example of $100,000, if your cost of goods sold is 25 grand, you need $25,000 of, let's say, beard oil, and you can sell it for 100,000, right? If I wanted to double this and go from 100,000 to 200,000, or let's just keep the example the same, right? Let's just say it's 50,000, right? And you want to go from 50,000 to 100,000, that would mean you need double the amount of cost of goods and you need double the amount of profit. So if you had a 50,000 per month business and you had 25% profit, that would mean you make about $12,500 a month, which is about the same as the cost of goods sold you need. So now if you want to buy enough inventory for $100,000, now you need about $25,000 of inventory to buy so that in the future you have enough cost of goods sold or inventory to hit that number. Does that make sense? The problem is if you're at 50,000, you're only making 12,500 in profit. So how are you going to do that? Where's the money going to come from? Right? For simpler numbers, let's say you're at 100,000 per month and you want to double it to 200. At $100,000 per month, you would need about $25,000 of cost of goods and also $25,000 of profit. So if you want to double your business, now all of a sudden you need $50,000 in cost of goods sold, but you only are making $25,000 in profit. So how the hell do you come up with twice the profit in order to front the money to buy the inventory that isn't here yet? So that's what happens. If you start scaling and growing your business too fast, you're only making, in this example, $25,000 in profit this month, but you have to come up with $50,000 in money to buy the inventory, and you're not going to get it until 3 to 4 months. So what that looks like is you spend the $50,000 now to place the order, and in 2 months, 3 months goes by, they make the product, 4 months they ship it, and in the 5th month when you receive it, you can start selling through the product. That's very problematic because the faster you grow, you're always spending money up front before you make it. That's the first problem. You got to fix that. You got to shift it around to when you're making money sooner to when you're spending it. So most people think that they need more money because their inventory is bigger. They're like, all right, I'm only making $25,000 a month. I need to order $50,000 of inventory. Let me get a $50,000 credit card. That solves the problem. But then if you keep doubling, now you're going to need 75,000 of inventory or 100,000 of inventory. So in a few months, you're just going to always keep needing more and more money. The problem even makes a little bit worse because you never really sell through the entire inventory before you buy again. So you would front the inventory, buy 3 months worth of it. In 3 months, it'll come. And then when you start selling it, you're realizing, oh snap, I'm going to sell out again. So I got to buy more inventory. So you're typically buying more inventory before you even fully recoup your initial investment. So you're always reinvested. So the thing to really fix that foundation is to figure out how to start generating revenue closer to the time that you order the inventory. In an ideal world, you would be able to start recouping your investment in 30 days. In a super ideal world, you will actually make money first and then pay for it. And there are multiple ways that we were able to do this, which we will probably go into in a later video. It's a pretty confusing, not a confusing, but it's lengthy, depending on where you order your products from, if you order it in America or China. And this is just understanding what foundational issues you need to fix. And so the only way to stop needing money as you grow is to reduce the amount of time between when you buy and pay for product versus how long you can actually start recouping your investment. That's the first fix. The second fix, and the second most important thing out of this whole process of the foundations of finances for ecom, is switching from cash to accrual. So let's say you were at $16,000 per month in January, and this month you didn't have to buy any inventory because let's say you stocked up last year December, so you're good. Then February comes and you made $20,000. Again, you don't need to buy any cost of goods, but because you stocked up, you still have some in stock. March, you grow to 24K, but now you're low on inventory. So you buy $50,000 worth of inventory because it's going to take a while to get here. So what your numbers would show is that you made $60,000 in the first quarter of the year, but you had $50,000 in inventory because it's looking that you spent 50 grand on a purchase order. So in the month of March, you would have made 25K and spent 50K, so you lost 26,000. But overall, you made 60, spent 50, so you overall made 10. Here's a big reason why none of us can get funding from a bank. Because your numbers show that in March, you lost negative 26,000. How many of you would give me $50,000, $100,000 if I showed you my numbers and I told you in March, I'm going to take a big L? But don't worry about that. I'm still going to figure out a way to pay you back. But according to our numbers, I'm losing 26 grand on March. Nobody in their right mind will give you money knowing that in 1 month, you're going to lose so much money and you may not be able to repay them back. You're a big credit risk, right? So having your numbers like this on a cash basis is shaky. And by the way, you're not required to do accrual unless you're at $25 million a year. So 90% of e-commerce founders under 5-10 million a year, unless they have investors, are operating on cash. So if you turn these numbers into the bookkeeper or to the bank, 9 times out of 10, if you have a big dip like that in the months that you're buying inventory, you're not going to get approved. So here's how going from cash to accrual helps. So same numbers in revenue, 16, 20, 24. You made 60,000, right? The only difference is you shift from thinking about your inventory as, when I buy the inventory, to now shift into thinking, this is the inventory I spent this month to make that revenue. So let's say you made 16,000, and that month you calculated how much did I spend on inventory to make 16,000, and in January it was only 4,000. So now your true gross profit is revenue minus your cost of your goods, the cost of the beard oil that I spent to make 16,000. So now you're left over with 12. And then in February you made 20, and your bookkeeper's like, all right, in February, in order to make 20,000, you actually use $5,000 worth of beard oil to sell it for 20. Same in March. So in this scenario, now it shows that in the first quarter, you still made 60 grand, but now it shows that you have a gross profit of 45 grand. Because it's not showing that you spent 50 grand on inventory like it does in cash. With this one, it's just simply saying, hey, banker, I made this much money, and here is the cost of my goods sold that month to make that revenue. Now, when you show this to a banker, you no longer have that big dip. The key here is why this is important and how people get in trouble is because in February, your accountant will go and say, you know what, Gamal, in January you made 16 grand and you spent 4,000 in inventory. So that's the exact amount you should pay back. So in an ideal scenario, you would have a credit card or a line of credit to buy the 50,000 in inventory on, right? You're not going to buy it out of your profit. You're going to keep your profit to pay yourself and reinvest in marketing. Because if you're growing, your profits really aren't going to be enough to fund your future growth of your cost of goods sold, right? So you don't want to be at a loss by doubling down on spending too much money or more than the money on your cost of goods sold. So you have a separate credit card just for inventory. And then in February, your banker would be like, okay, only pay $4,000. In March, your banker or your CPA would be like, okay, only pay back $5,000 in February. So the other problem that people have is because they don't have a bookkeeper who's telling this to tell them exactly how much they should be repaying, they end up paying whatever they feel like it. So in the months that you're making a lot of money, you overpay back your inventory, right? And the months that you're pressed or you're not making a lot of money, you underpay for your inventory. So over time of overpaying, underpaying, most likely you're underpaying. By the end of the year, that credit card that you had just to pay inventory is maxed out. And now you don't have any capacity again. And you're always chasing a new line of credit, a new credit card, right? So figuring out these two shifts is a major game changer for fixing the foundations of your problem. So if you got the credit card and you have the working capital loan from Shopify, all the other things, and you still have the problem, 90% of the time it's from one of these fundamental issues, right? One last thing on this video, because I want to keep these short and sweet, and I know I'm spitting a lot of stuff at you, is that getting a Shopify loan actually hurts you here, because what happens is if let's say you need $50,000 to order this purchase order, right? In March, and Shopify gives you the money, but it's going to take you 3 months to start returning your investment. What Shopify is going to do is they're going to start charging you and asking you to pay them back next week. So you don't even have a chance to recoup your investment. So like what I mean by that is, let me pull this slide up. If I can give you, where is it at? If I can give you, let's say $100,000, and you know, in 6 months you could flip it and make 400,000, that would be great. The problem is if I'm giving you the 100,000 and before you got a chance to flip it, I'm asking for my money back. That's what happens with e-commerce, right? So you want to figure out what type of money you can get that would allow you to order your inventory, for you to generate sales and then pay it back. It sounds super simple, and because it really is, but it's not easy, but it's very simple. The fundamental problem is you're borrowing money and you got to pay it back before you could flip the money and make a return on your investment. If you simply find a lending opportunity or a way to pay for your inventory, and they don't mess with you until you actually flip the products, you're going to be in a much better scenario. And probably the easiest way to do that is by using a high interest rate credit card to pay for your inventory, but having your bookkeeper tell you exactly how much you should pay back on the credit card. So a lot of people would be like, man, I don't want to pay 25% for putting inventory on credit card, because you're going to pay 25% in interest, or 25,000. And so they go to these Shopify loans because it's only 5 or 10 or even 17%, but you're actually worse off, and I'm going to prove it. So if I can give you $100,000 and you're following the quarterly accounting principles, and you could buy 100,000 of beard oil, and in 6 months you could flip it to 400 grand, that means you're paying $25,000 in interest, not on 100,000, but really on 400,000 in revenue. So if I go and make that 400,000 and then give me back the 25K, your 25K is really interest on 400,000. So the interest rate is really now 6%. But if it takes you 6 months to do that, it's not an annual percentage rate, because you could do it twice. You could get the 100,000 in January, make a 400 grand in 6 months or in June, flip it again and make another 400,000 by the end of the year, you would flip that 100 grand twice. So you'd make 800,000 and only have to pay me back 25,000 for the year. Your interest rate's really only about 3-4%. Way better option, but not only because of the interest rate, but because you control when you pay it back. So you're in a much better position using a credit card, right, to buy your inventory for free, even though you're paying interest, right? Generate revenue from it and then pay back your credit card after you've already made the money. Then doing what you're doing now with the Shopify loan, where they give you the money at 10% interest, but they're asking you to pay it back next week. And so by the time you actually get the product to return the investment or make ROI to flip the beard oil, you've already paid back most of the loan. And so your problem in fixing cash flow is not that you need money, right? That's just a symptom. Your problem, and really the underneath the layer and how you fix this, is understanding how you pay for your product, right? Finding a better product to pay for your, a better way to pay for your product. And then 2, finding a bookkeeper who could understand both cash and accrual and give you the reports at the same time so you can make informed decisions. So if you're watching this video and you're like, dang, I'm always struggling with cash flow. I'm making money, but I'm looking at the Shopify and it says I made money, but I'm looking at my actual bank account. Nothing's there. My credit cards are always maxed out. That's probably a sign that you have foundational issues of your finances and not a symptom. Simply giving you another credit card is not going to help you, because if you double and you're randomly picking how you pay for it, you're continuing, or let's say if you get another Shopify loan, right, for 50K, and you're randomly choosing how you pay back your inventory, or you're paying it back next week and you don't get the product for 2 or 3 months, you're going to always be in the same position. And so if you found this helpful, or if you have more questions, let me know in the comments below. As a reminder, if you're new to this channel, the feedback is important. So comment, like, subscribe to the channel, and just let me know if I should make more types of videos like this or less. And we're going to commit to dropping 1 video a week for the rest of the year on teaching people how to build highly profitable, successful 7-figure businesses that they can sell in the future. So come back for the other part of this module when we're talking about operations and systems, so that as you scale the marketing and put the cash flow in place, you can start to buy back your time and actually enjoy the business that you're building. So come back for the 3rd part in this series on operations, and catch you later. Peace.